Hi, my name is Abigail Nordstrom, and I am doing my presentation on different attachment styles. I chose this because when I was reading one of my books the other day, I realized that one of the characters was displaying an anxious attachment style, and I thought it would be kind of cool to learn more about these different attachment styles. And then I also decided to assign them to different TV characters that we know and love, so it gives us another way to connect to it. So first is an overall on attachment theory. This was created by John Bowlby, who is a psychiatrist. He found out that as a bond with your primary caregiver as a baby has an influence on your future adult life, especially with relationships. Basically, attachment theory as a baby is to ensure its survival. And your child is, again, dependent on your caregiver. And this helps us to understand the connection of early separation. And there are 4 different attachment styles. They're broken down into secure and insecure. Under secure is obviously secure attachment, and insecure has 3 types: anxious, avoidant, and disorganized attachment. So overall, the more extreme stress, the more intense your attachment system will be. So first we have secure attachment. So secure attachment is shown with a healthy bond between their child and the parent. So how does a child end up developing secure attachment? Basically, overall, the child feels safe and there's a closeness to the mother. The mom, you're a source of food and protection for the baby. You're basically not overwhelming the kid. And if the child is scared, they know they can always fall back and go to their mother. It's a safety thing. Next, the child feels seen and known. Basically, the parents can read their baby's cues and respond effectively. So when the baby knows it's hungry, they know that their parent will always come and feed them. They, have that reliability. Next, the child feels comfort. The parents are open and inviting to the child. They're always going to soothe the child. So when a parent soothes to calm them, it'll actually end up leading to self-soothing techniques for the child. So that's good to develop. Next, the child feels valued. This starts developing for a healthy self-esteem, and this relies on being rather than doing. So the parents don't always talk about, oh, I like that you're doing this, but it's more being. So they're commenting and complimenting on that they are here rather than what they do. And lastly, the child feels supported to explore. The parent basically has full faith in their child. They give them room to explore, to succeed, and to fail. This encourages autonomy and independence for the child and creates a unique sense of self. Basically, the parents are predictable to the child, and overall, they don't break the child's trust. So how is this shown in adults? So basically, they have their own positive self-view. They feel good on their own in relationships, and they don't require reassurance to feel valued and loved. This doesn't mean they don't want intimacy, but they don't need the constant reassurance. They have a positive view on others. They tend to trust their partners, and they're warm and loving. They're not really the jealous type. And they also have a positive view on childhood. They're able to reflect even if it's not on the good and the bad. They appreciate the good and then can move on from the bad. They don't dwell on it. And one thing is you can develop secure attachment as adult. So if you think you don't have secure attachment, you can get it as an adult. So overall, this person is aware of their emotions and able to express them. So an example in TV is they're kind of the boring character in Hollywood terms because it's not necessarily dramatic, so they don't really put this on TV as much. But a good example I found was Rebecca Pearson from This Is Us. In the show, you can tell she's comfortable with her husband. She's always there for her kids and is able to have the hard, meaningful talks with them. And then another character I found was Daphne Bridgerton from Bridgerton. So next is anxious attachment. This is the start of the insecure attachment styles. So anxious attachment style is caused by inconsistency from the parents. So how is this developed as a child? First, it's called anxious ambivalent in the childhood, and then it develops into anxious attachment. But basically, the parents are sometimes supportive and sometimes not. This is caused a lot of inconsistency, and the child usually ends up confused and then ends up sending mixed signals. And then emotional hunger is happening with the child. Basically, the parents will end up seeking emotional and physical closeness for their personal needs rather than the personal needs of their kids, and that causes them to crave that emotion. And then parents can usually come off as intrusive and overprotective for the child. So overall, for this, the parents are inconsistent. How is it shown in adults? Basically, these people think highly of other people, but they have such a low self-esteem that they're not good with them just being by themselves. Basically, they think they're not worthy of love. They usually need a lot of reassurance that they're loved, and they usually struggle to trust other people. They have usually a fear of abandonment. They are clingy or desperate, and they're emotionally dependent on other people, or it's almost like they're incapable of being alone. So overall, this person is sensitive to other people's needs, but not necessarily their own. So an example in TV is the clingy character that you sometimes will see. A good example is Ross Geller from Friends. You can tell he's insecure with his girlfriend Rachel. He is usually over the top with things that he does for her. He gets jealous of Rachel's colleagues, and he has a lack of trust. And if you've seen him in the show, he usually always has a girlfriend, always in a relationship. He gets married, I think, 3 different times throughout the show, so he's incapable of being alone. And some other characters are Alexis Rose from Schitt's Creek and Penelope Featherington from Bridgerton. Next, we have avoidant attachment. So avoidant attachment style is caused by strict, emotionally distant parents. So how does a child develop avoidant attachment? Similar to the anxious attachment, it has a different name in childhood, anxious avoidant. Basically, the child needs a closeness, but their parent does not give it to them. The parents usually disapprove of their emotions, even if it's positive emotions or negative emotions. They just don't want to see a display of emotions at all. Basically, parents don't tolerate it, and if emotions are shown, parents usually will get angry, and this is when the toughen up part comes. It's like, you're better than this, you don't need to show emotions, you're fine. So overall, parents expect their child to be independent and reserved. How is avoidant attachment shown in adults? Usually these people are the happy people. They're easygoing, they're fun to be around, they tend to have lots of friends, they're very independent beings, and they usually have a high self-esteem. And they like to be in control of what happens in their life. They don't like to be alone. They don't really rely on reassurance from other people. But in relationships, they'll let you be physically around them, but they won't let you into themselves. So basically, as soon as their relationship gets serious, they tend to close themselves off, and they usually tend to end that relationship. So overall, this person doesn't build deep and meaningful, long-lasting relationships with other people. So an example of avoidant attachment is the classic player character in different TV shows, and a really good example is Lorelai Gilmore from Gilmore Girls. She hides her boyfriend Jason from her parents. She doesn't want her parents to know about him, doesn't want their parents to have a relationship with him. She ends up running away from her wedding with her fiance Max, and she ends up pushing Luke away when things get serious. And basically, Lorelai is a happy character in the show. Like, she is well-liked, has lots of friends, but just in different relationships, she tends to get closed off and never gets married. So other characters that show this is Harvey Specter from Suits and Charlie Brown. Lastly, we have disorganized attachment. So basically, disorganized attachment style is caused when the parents, aka their safety, becomes the child's fear. One thing about disorganized attachment is it's a combination of anxious and avoidant attachment. It differs from the two because there's a coherence of the individual's social behavior. And because of this, it's the most difficult to manage, and it's also the rarest attachment style. So what causes disorganized attachment in children is it ends up being a consequence from trauma or abuse, and it the perceived fear becomes the central aspect of this attachment style. Basically, there's an inconsistent behavior from the parent, and the parents ultimately become their child's fear. The child doesn't know what to expect of their parent or if their parents will meet their needs at all. So a child could witness a traumatic event involving their attachment figure. This could involve abuse, verbal, physical, sexual, any kind. And one thing about it is it doesn't have to be their parent abusing them, but they could see their parent abusing someone else, and so that could cause it. And basically, they lose trust in their parent. So overall, a child never adapts to the parent's behavior because they don't know what will happen next. So how is this shown in adult relationships? Basically, again, they lack a coherent approach, but they just ultimately still want to be loved. They are usually afraid to let other people in. They're constantly waiting for rejection and hurt. Basically, they think the people close to them will hurt them. That's what they've always seen. And essentially, it will come. It's inevitable. They're going to get hurt. They like to self-sabotage, and they expect the relationship to end. Basically, even if there's no signs that it's going south, they will act like the relationship has already ended. So they have a negative self-view and of others, and they're at higher risk for mental health issues. And there's a link between borderline personality disorder, which is characterized by unstable moods, behaviors, and relationship. Overall, this person wants a relationship but fears intimacy. So a character that's disorganized attachment is Carrie Bradshaw from Sex and the City. She's a self-destructive character, craves male attention, but different things like refusing to wear her wedding ring after knowing he loves her and cheats on him. And she's chasing after Mr. Big the whole show, and then ultimately throws a wedding that she knows he doesn't want, and he leaves her at the altar. Some other characters that show this are the Grinch and Elsa from Frozen. Thank you.